Welcome to Planet People, a podcast that aims to inspire curiosity and cultivate a deeper connection with the natural world.
We are thrilled to be sharing stories with you that highlight the beauty and importance of protecting our planet's wildlife.
Be sure to follow us on social media and your favorite podcast streaming platform so that you never miss an episode. Hey, Coral.
What's up, Planet People? This is a bonus episode that we have ahead of us with Carissa Cabrera, and she is a conservation badass.
Yes, I'm so excited to have this interview to share with our audience. She is such a badass, like you said, really pioneering the way with cool conservation initiatives with her organization, FutureSwell.
She's been a huge inspiration for you as well. So that's what's been fun about these different bonus episodes that we're doing, because we get to also talk to other people that maybe were not in the desert conservation space, but still really huge inspiration for the both of us.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. She has been a big inspiration for me. I think she and I have fallen into a similar career path where we have both spent a lot of time in the field and feel the need now to share that knowledge to create a bigger impact on like an advocacy level, right? And it's kind of like this pipeline of biology to science communication to advocacy. And so you really see that with Carissa and her platform, FutureSwell, and how she advocates for, greener ocean initiatives.
Yeah, and she recently, with a huge coalition in Hawaii, just passed the first visitor green fee tax in Hawaii, which is a huge congratulations to that team and a really big step forward in raising money for conservation in a way that isn't going to be felt so heavily by everybody, which is really nice. We break that down and exactly how they got that done and what part that she played in that entire effort. So
it's really impressive. And she shares a little bit too about the misinformation around how much the tax is, right? Because when that first came out, people were like, oh, like it's going to be too expensive to visit Hawaii. Now they have all of these visitor taxes, yada, yada. But it's better to be informed now. And she does inform us in this episode about what that tax looks like and how it's going to help conservation efforts in Hawaii. We also get into it a little bit about what's next on the horizon with ocean conservation. So there's the deep sea mining campaign to prevent that industry from taking place. There isn't currently any deep sea mining going on, but there is a great threat in the future of that happening. So FutureSwell is doing a ton right now to prevent that destructive process. Really, it would completely destroy the sea floor and all the biodiversity that lies there, and things that we don't even know exist, that aren't even documented, would be in harm's way. So go follow FutureSwell and learn more about the efforts they're taking to protect the ocean.
And also, Carissa has her own podcast, Sustainability in the Sea, which we will be on at some point. And so look out for that. Go give her a listen. We love just collaborating with these different podcasts and just uplifting the voice for conservation, because that's what we're here to do. So go give her podcast a listen and then listen to this episode.
Thanks for being here, guys. We hope you enjoy. We're diving deep with Carissa Cabrera, an ocean conservationist, climate activist, and whose work spans from oceans to global advocacy. And as the CEO of FutureSwell and a Harvard-recognized content creator, Carissa is bringing ocean conservation to the masses. Welcome to the show today, Carissa.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself so our audience can get to know you. What does it mean to be like a Harvard-recognized content creator?
Yeah, I know. I feel like content creation is now such a part of the conservation communication space. But no, I work in ocean conservation. I'm based in Hawaii. I mainly work with nonprofits in policy and developing programs. But essentially, I come into an organization and I help provide structure to their ideas and their visions and help them build programs around their goals as a as a mission-driven organization. As far as the content side, I started sharing that widely because I wanted the public to be part of the movement with us. And I felt like everyone was getting that information on social media. And then only like a few years into that journey, Harvard has this like list of climate creators to watch, and I was on the inaugural list. So that's why I put it in my bio, just because I think that some people, maybe people over a certain age, don't always understand how valuable content can be in the movement. And so it helps add some legitimacy. It's kind of why I include it.
That's a valid point. And I feel like before content creation and conservation sort of started overlapping, there was like maybe not a negative connotation around the word content creation, but maybe it just had this association that wasn't relevant to conservation. And even I have felt like a little bit of imposter around that title, because I just feel like it's so much more than that when we're trying to communicate to the masses about advocacy around, ocean and climate solutions and wildlife and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's associated with the word influence. I think. Right. So I try to I'm seeing others, like there's content creator, there's storyteller, there's all these other pieces. I kind of like digital organizer, but I just, that. People are just know what you're talking about when you say the word influencer.
Sure.
So I think I just gotta shed it and let it go.
Right. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to influence people with your ideas. I mean, if you think about all of our own role models in the conservation space, like for you, I know that's, Dr. Sylvia Earle, Dr. Jane Goodall, like they are the OG influencers, right? Yeah. And so just like embrace that. I mean, you have such a great audience across TikTok and Instagram. And that's definitely how I found you. And I actually think I found you on LinkedIn when you were still doing Ocean Connections.
What? That's crazy.
I know.
That's a crazy origin story.
I think a few years ago.
Can we break down to our audience what Ocean Connections is?
Tell us about it, Carissa.
I was just going to tell you, Coral. So it's essentially, I think it was 2022. It was a handful of years ago, but when I first started FutureSwell, which was essentially like, didn't know what it was going to be. It was a consultancy. It was a media company. It was really just me quitting my job and trying to build this thing.
Totally.
We were just chasing any pots of funding that we could find to keep the lights on. And Ocean Connections was the first project we ever got funded. And it was essentially making like lesson plans for middle schoolers about the connection between ocean and climate during COVID. And they were video lesson plans because teachers were having to teach remotely. And there was like a huge need for, to support teachers during that time. I don't know if anyone has teachers in their family or was a teacher. It was a rough time. And so it was actually funded by National Geographic, which helped me get into the society as an educator, which was really a great opportunity to start like our work. And me and my partner filmed it like in a friend's house. We just made some lesson plans.
Bootstrapped it.
Yep. Called every school we knew on the West Coast and in Hawaii. And we're like, do you guys need some curriculum? And they were like, yeah, made a spreadsheet, sent it all to them. It was fun.
Wow. You just cold called people like that and offered your services? And
I cold called.
Yeah,
I didn't know what else to do because I was an informal educator to National Geographic. So they were funding people like who already had access to students because they were teachers. And so I was like, I got to get this out there.
Yeah.
And I did post about it, but I didn't think that there were a lot of educators following me. So I just called a bunch of schools and they were actually really helpful. Also, National Geographic ended up like the name of it had them listen, which was helpful.
Oh, nice. How many schools did you end up getting?
We had it in like over 40.
That's a lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do schools still have access to it?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Anyone listening can go to futureswell.org/ocean-connections and access the curriculum.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And we'll put that in our show notes too.
Cool.
Thanks, I know some teachers too, so I'll send it their way.
Yeah, it's really cringe from my perspective, but I think teachers will hopefully they can adapt it. They can take what they need.
Oh, amazing.
That's so cool. How do you feel like Ocean Connections developed into FutureSwell, right? There was sort of that transition where you were going in between, like kind of defining what it would be next, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you are almost always in that phase as a founder. And so I had a lot of experience before starting FutureSwell in education outreach, like K through 12 or different audiences. I had been like education outreach managers for nonprofits for multiple groups at that point. So it was something that came easily and something I thought I could do independently. But there was like a moment where I was like, oh, this could be like a curriculum or like a creating educational materials organization, but I don't want it to be fully. I want it to be doing media. I want it to be doing policy. I want it to be doing consultancy. And so I had to I actually didn't really start. I stopped talking about Ocean Connections. Yeah. I still did education grants, but I just started, I guess, branding FutureSwell differently. And then also just trying to say yes to different opportunities, which caused me to, take on social media manager contracts, which maybe were things that I wasn't the best at, but I wanted to like move towards that direction. And bring FutureSwell there to be doing ocean conservation communications for like impact initiatives. So
you were in a space where you focused more on this education piece, and then you moved a little bit more into social media as a stepping stone for your goal to be in policy.
So I was doing education work. I was doing projects. I was also really prioritizing my own social media and TikTok at the time and just trying to get it as big as I could at like the early days of TikTok. And then I got a contract doing social media management for a coalition that was trying to pass a policy. And that came to be like 5 to 6 years of my life. And I'm still with them now, actually, but I came in to they had like just gotten a logo. So I came in to like stand up an Instagram, stand up a website for them. And it was, they knew I didn't have like any policy experience, but they also were all kind of had other jobs and were trying to pass this policy as like a side hustle. And so everyone was really welcoming to teach me about it. And I just kind of showed up how I could and was helpful where I could. And I will clarify, at FutureSwell, we do all 3 of those things still. We do media that's based in education. We do policy and advocacy with nonprofits. And then we also do the strategic development. So like helping groups grow their ideas into like structured programs.
Well, it's one step at a time, right? So, you tackle one thing at a time and then you end up being in your flow to be able to do all 3 at once. So I love that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, you got to be intentional, I think. I think that's like one of my big pieces of advice, because I could have easily like slipped into the education world, and then I knew I didn't know what that would look like. And I knew media had more like opportunity to reach more people at a time.
And so what's some policy work that you're proud of that you have seen to the end, or just some milestones that you're proud of that you can speak to?
Yeah. So all policy is passed by coalitions of many people. And
can we define coalition real quick?
Oh, yeah. Basically, a coalition is a group of people or groups of people who have come together around a shared vision and goal. So that could be like passing policy. That could be like accomplishing something at their school. That could be like getting rid of plastic in their like neighborhood. And you come together around this one issue. You move towards the issue, and then you can disperse after, or you can switch to another issue.
Mm-hmm. Specifically, the one that you're working with in Hawaii, like, are you guys meeting monthly? Are you meeting biweekly? Like, what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, we should be meeting monthly, the larger coalition, but instead we have the leadership committee meeting once to twice a week. It's a big lift. And then the broader coalition, we're bringing on a community organizer to steward and to be communicating with them. Otherwise, we're just like doing newsletters, social media. It's kind of a little bit looser. But ideally, you want to be meeting regularly so that the coalition it's a two-way street and you can like make progress on the issue.
And then is this like a full volunteer effort?
No, there's like a handful of consultants on our coalition, me being one of them. And then they're doing it as like part of a nonprofit. Say they're like the education coordinator of the nonprofit. Part of their job would also be to be part of the coalition. We got in a 2-year span, we got deep sea mining banned in Hawaii state waters. And that was passed within 2 years. I was a super support role. That was a Native Hawaiian led coalition. But the work that I'd been focusing on for about 5 or 6 years was passing the visitor green fee, or Hawaii green fee. It's the first in the United States. It just passed this May.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was so hard. I just want everyone to know how hard it was. It was really, there were so many years of having to like iterate and change and propose different things and build relationships. And really, the turning point in the movement before it passed. It passed this year. The law takes effect in January. It's a really minimal fee, a few dollars a night on hotel and cruise cabins, and it generates $100 million for climate is kind of how the fee is structured. But the turning point when we thought, oh my gosh, this could happen, is when we had a new governor elected, and he was an environmentalist. It wasn't like his platform, but he like really liked saying like he's standing for that. And he was like, I want to do something huge on climate. And he couldn't get it done the first year, couldn't get it done second year. And then we got it done this year. So I think there was like the grassroots piece of it. And then there was like the leader, buying into it. And I think without those two pieces, it wouldn't have happened,
I think that just goes to show the importance of stakeholder involvement from many different angles, especially with the grassroots piece from the ground up, and using a bottom-up approach to applying not just, the science piece and the climate piece, but also, I'm sure Indigenous knowledge was definitely incorporated in this.
Of course.
And how did you advocate for Native Hawaiians through passing this fee, and how did you guys work together? What did that look like?
Yeah, I wasn't advocating on behalf of Native Hawaiians. We had Native Hawaiians come into our leadership committee and shape the coalition. And a huge alignment for everyone in the coalition was, we want to make sure this money doesn't just stay in the government. We want to make sure it gets to community nonprofits. That was like everyone's biggest. We were all in agreement. If it doesn't get to community nonprofits, it's not a win. And so a lot of the Hawaiian groups that serve community groups would come in and bring in their partners to show this is the work that could be done, that's rooted in like biocultural restoration, that's rooted in traditional knowledge. And then what you would think of as like traditional conservationists would come in and say, this is what we would do too. But here, because Hawaii is so diverse, so collaborative, all of those things overlap so deeply. And so what we just tried to do is make sure that we had a giant coalition. It was like 70 groups. And then we had a leadership committee that's still active today. And there's maybe like 12 to 15 people there. And we just wanted to make sure that leadership, which is like the decision-making body, is representative of all of our issues, including like Indigenous knowledge and stewardship.
And is this for all of the islands, or is it just for
all of them?
Okay, all of the islands.
Yeah. Another consideration had to bring in people from different islands. We needed to make sure it wasn't just like Oahu, because the critical mass of the population is here, but like there's so much work being done on outer islands.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm so happy that there's representatives from all islands, because it's also multiple different climates.
Yeah. And different issues, like completely different climate issues. So now we all have these other concerns of like, we got to make sure money gets distributed to these other issues, to many islands, all these things. So I told you guys it was really hard to pass policy. When I was on the phone with someone from the group, they were like, oh, the hardest part's implementation. And I was like, we literally are just starting that.
So you're like, oh, okay, the hardest is behind me. And then that person's like, no.
It's all in front of you.
Oh, great.
But it's so exciting because it's something that's forever.
Yeah.
And hey, you just get to look forward to it.
Yeah, you get to learn and grow.
It's not like there's an end game. It's just continuously striving towards, peace and justice and climate justice. And it's like, we're in the thick of it right now, just across the world, really. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Now, because it's a state generated source of funding, we're less vulnerable to whatever goes on federally or internationally, and that level of peace, it's not anywhere near the amount of money we need, but it's a really good start.
Got to take those small wins, right? Well, this isn't a small win. This is a huge win. But it's just another stepping stone to all the other successes that will come.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just want to clarify, because there has been some miscommunication online about this policy. And I know you mentioned it before, but I just want to like scream it out loud of what exactly this tax is and, you know, how that money is going to be distributed. I know you literally said it, but just so that we could be like very clear, because I personally, we were on a call earlier this week and I was telling you, like, I saw this online and what I saw was misinformation. And even though it was misinformation, I'm obviously an environmentalist, so I'm like, whatever, I don't care. But what I saw was that $100 would be put onto your plane ticket if you were to visit Hawaii, which is not true. I'm just very loudly saying that that is incorrect. However, that is what I saw and what I thought this was. So if you could just clarify exactly what it is. So people aren't freaked out when they're booking their trip to Hawaii.
I am so curious the original source of that, because that was not in any of our feeds. We had a totally different subset of misinformation, but thank you for the opportunity to clarify. It's, first of all, you can't charge things on plane tickets, like in the US. You can in other countries, but that'll never be the case. And it's not even close to $100. It's about $3. If a hotel room's $400, which it's so expensive here, guys. So that's like around the nightly rate. If it's around $400 a night, you're paying $3. So it's 0.75% of the cost of hotels, cruise cabins, and like short-term vacation rentals. So that people think of like Airbnbs. If you're invited, and you're staying with friends, if you're staying with family, that wouldn't be, you wouldn't have to pay it. And also, this tax with booking hotels kind of exists for other things. Like I think it's actually in total 10% for hotels. So this is just a little 0.75% on that's going to go to climate. And then the priorities that are spelled out in the law span, it's like 3 priorities: natural resource management and protection, which is essentially environmental stewardship, climate resilience for like, I think of like infrastructure is that bucket, like making sure that like built infrastructure is good for like climate shocks like hurricanes or fires, and then sustainable tourism and like visitor and destination management. So like offsetting the impacts by, you know, trails or beaches that are frequented by visitors. So those are 3 buckets. The law actually says the money has to be split evenly across all 3 buckets. So but beyond that is what is in the law. All the other details are being fleshed out like as we record this.
I see. Mm-hmm. Does this apply to like restaurants? If people are going to restaurants and shops, will that tax be applied, or it's mainly just lodging?
Nope. No, it's just lodging. It's just where you stay. Yeah. Yeah. And there's like some other things in Hawaii that charge, but that has nothing to do with the green fee. So like, I know they have like a service fee sometimes at restaurants, but yeah.
Yeah. So if you visit Hawaii, it will be tacked onto your lodging, and it won't be that much, but with everyone visiting Hawaii all the time, it will add up and it will be a tremendous impact. So I'm very happy that you were able to get this through.
Yeah, I'm happy it's not going to be felt so heavily by everyone. That was like the goal too, is like we have so many visitors. So why doesn't everybody just pay a little bit, and then we can have this huge impact with all the funding. So yeah. And also, you know, we all want to give back to the places we visit. So I think that it's going to be received really well.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Well, I know this is an earlier victory, but the deep sea mining policy, what was that like? And also, have you seen any specific like positive impact from that?
Yeah, great question. So I'm just going to give a little background on what deep sea mining is.
Yes, do tell us so we know.
Yeah.
What are the campaigns that you guys are working on right now too?
I've been so involved in deep sea mining, but essentially deep sea mining is under the previous US administration. It was really marketed as like this way to get precious metals for electric vehicles, like the green revolution. But it's essentially the idea, this industry hasn't started for everyone listening. It has not begun yet. And it's this idea of going to the seafloor where there's these precious metals, collecting them and using them in supply chains for like technology and clean energy. It's super expensive. Of course, you have to like go to the deep sea. It's super destructive to the deep sea because you're kind of like dragging things across the seafloor, and time moves really slow in the deep sea. Everything's really old. Everything's long lived down there. It's really fragile and vulnerable. And so it's really destructive. And then it's also not necessarily like once it's brought to land, it hasn't really been done. It hasn't been done. It's not profitable or feasible. So it doesn't really make a lot of economic sense. But this year, and there's also the world, this is a global conversation. So all these countries come together twice a year in Jamaica, and they talk about the deep sea mining industry. They talk about regulations. They talk about when to do it. And about 30 countries have said, we just want to call for like a 10-year pause on that. We don't know enough. We don't know enough about the deep sea. We don't know enough about the industry. And that's like a global UN, country. The countries that ratify the certain treaty are the ones who go to it. Okay. So that's just what people need to understand is it's happening. It's like moving slowly, but people are being cautionary. The US this year has decided to go outside that international governing body and just fast track it in the US, which is like such a geopolitical risk, but that's not my expertise. So I don't need to talk about that. But so they're trying to do it in the Pacific, and the Pacific has like a lot of those metals. And so the reason why we prioritized that bill a few years ago was because Hawaii is like out there in the middle. And like when you have these big shipping vessels, they could, because it only bans in state waters, but if they mine like anywhere else in the Pacific, the bill has this provision in it where they can't use our ports. And so we just want to make sure that like, if deep sea mining does happen in the Pacific, you can like never refuel or come to Hawaii to get gas or to facilitate this industry at all. So that was like the big win for that. It was a small bill. It's very unlikely deep sea mining would ever happen in state waters. The real win was that port inclusion. Yeah. And then right now, as we speak, they're trying to mine the waters off American Samoa, which is a territory of the U.S. And that's the campaign. You asked about the campaigns, Natalie, that we're on right now. They're accepting federal public comment on it. So we're doing like a social media push at FutureSwell with a bunch of people to help encourage a bunch of opposition, like formally submitted opposition about why this is an issue. And we're working with community leaders on the ground in American Samoa who are also completely against this. The governor and the lieutenant governor were like, absolutely not. We do not want this. And then Trump and the Corporation Impossible Metals are like, let's do it. So we're just trying to be supportive. That's like another support role campaign, if that makes sense. I know there's so much jargon in policy. So I'm sorry, guys.
No, it makes sense. That's great that community conservation is such an effort in the American Samoa territory. It just is a matter of applying those voices so that people don't do what they don't want there. If they don't want deep sea mining to happen and it's coming from all voices on the ground, then that should be respected. In a perfect world.
And I think it's in something I've learned recently too, is just that the territories in the US just carry such little weight compared to states in influencing in public comment. And so I usually like would rather stand back, especially I'm like, that's you guys' issue. We're just here to support. But to know that like there needs to be support so that their voices can be amplified was a really good opportunity. So I'm hoping it's successful. We'll see. We're going to try our best. That's all you can do, right?
So how can we and people listening submit formally? Is that something that we can do as Americans, or because it's actually this America like territory instead of it being like a state, are we even able to influence?
Yeah. Yes, you are. I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but we have, if you go to FutureSwell, our Instagram, we activate on deep sea mining a lot. So even if it's after the public comment period, you can follow us to stay involved on future campaigns. But yes, this opportunity includes, they want opinions from everyone in the United States. Obviously, they're going to wait people who are experts or who are closer to the region or things like that. But we really are looking for volume right now. So yes, and we focus on making it super easy for people. So we have a template that all you need to do is personalize. We have an action toolkit if you want to repost it and put it on social media. And all of it is on our page at FutureSwell Instagram.
Nice. I love that you have all of these like templates and just making it as easy as possible for people, because I think that, you know, people like you and your company are really needed, because it's like everyone is working.
They're tired.
4 hours a week. Like, we're tired.
Yeah.
There's families, there's pets, there's like life that hits us. But it's like, at the end of the day, we do care about these things. How can I help? Okay, like, I feel like donating is it's 100% needed, but like not everyone can do it. And also sometimes you want to do more, even if you can donate. Sometimes you want to do like a little extra, because it's like, okay, I'm sending money, now what? Like, yep. So I love that you give people that opportunity to, just like
submit comments. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're trying to be so now what, we're trying to be in that space as an organization. And like, we work in these like large, broad federal coalitions. They're the ones who help support the template. They understand the political strategy going on the ground. We don't know that. The people online who are like, oh my God, I want to do something, don't know that. So then the templates we're providing are like written in this like strategic way that like fits the conversation that's happening. And that's also where we're trying to hang out as an organization, is like this bridge between like what's most effective and strategic and getting it out to digital communities.
Yeah.
And how would you say that storytelling becomes this major player of FutureSwell and communicating about those, you know, grassroots community efforts like in the American Samoa territory? What stories from that campaign are you sharing that are influencing, you know, decision making and creating impact? And how do you feel that stories can be, you know, an advocate, I guess, for climate solutions?
Well, people remember things like, I don't want to say a number and be wrong, but I think it's like 7 times more when it's packaged as a story. They remember facts. I believe that like all of our systems were built originally off stories. And I think that it's ultimately like, I subscribe to like a theory of change around there's 3 ways to make large scale impact. And it's like finance. You can like throw money at a problem. You can change the law around the problem, or you can change the cultural attitudes around the problem through media. And the US dominates media for the world. And social media is now quickly coming up behind the large platforms where we consume like traditional media. So the goal, and it's been slow and steady. You guys know how hard it is to grow online audiences.
It's been years.
It's like so hard. And the goal is to have these large platforms they don't even have to be large, but just trusted platforms with engaged communities to offer the community storytellers to tell their story on it. Totally. We know that the people we work with on the ground are focusing on doing the work and that's where we want them to focus. And we just want to be like a big megaphone for them.
Elevating their stories.
Mm-hmm, and that requires a platform, so a big audience, and it requires many different audiences, which is why we launched a coalition of different voices that reach totally different audiences around the world. Because, you know, we've got like this American Samoa campaign is a good example. We've got like, I'm focusing on people who are really going to resonate with that already, not people who maybe have never heard of American Samoa. We're like focusing on this very small group of audience. And frankly, that might not be mine. So we need to have like many different people in the conversation to kind of elevate those stories. But I mean, I am like a zillennial. And I think that I ultimately would love, like, I love the polished, beautiful stories too on social media, but sometimes they're not what reaches the masses. And I'm trying to like balance that piece of it too. So I think it's also about reframing what I view as a story, because we're living in this like 30-second world right now.
And you get to create your own story too, really. And it's your own life experiences that brought FutureSwell to existence. Like, you started as a marine biologist, turned science communicator, advocate. And, you know, it's funny, I was talking to Ellie about this when we were on Oahu earlier in June, and she was saying it's funny, because you and Chris are on the same track, like that pipeline from being in the field, seeing the change happen, wanting to communicate about it to the masses, and then taking real change, like the so what, the solutions. Yeah. Where are the solutions? We're documenting the decline of species. We're documenting climate change and just all these crises, but so what? What's the solution?
I tell people, like, I thought we needed to study the ocean to protect it. So I became a marine scientist. Then I knew we had all the information. So then I needed to tell people about it. So I went into education because I thought that people just needed to know and then they would change their minds. And then I realized that actually we need to change like what people care about culturally. And so then I went into media. That's like that. I would say like the evolution of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself, this is a little bit off track, going back for environmental law or doing anything in like...
I'm so attracted to it, but I literally cannot do that. I think I cannot.
Not right now. Like I'm thinking like maybe 10 years from now, because I just really like how FutureSwell has evolved, and I've been following along for a while. So I'm really happy to have you on the show because I've been wanting to talk to you, but I just think it's so cool that, it holds all three of those pillars, and one of them being the advocacy piece and like policy, because that's where the change happens at the state and federal level. Like,
I think, Coral, you said this, like, it's so hard to know where to donate. When people ask where to donate, I was like, donate to Earth Justice. Like they're the only, like they're who I would dedicate donating to, because they have the law experience that none of us can really fill in. And they're like suing, like people who are violating these like environmental issues and these justice issues. So I am super attracted to it, but I don't think I would do it. I think instead we're just going to bring lawyers into the coalition, which we've started to do. And then I would love to get involved in like one of my goals is to get involved in like a Rights for Nature campaign for the ocean.
Cool.
And then just offer FutureSwell as like an amplifier to it and be like supportive of those. Those exist in other countries. Like Ecuador gave rights to waterways. Panama's given rights for nature, I think. And so there's a need for that. And I think that I just won't be the lawyer in that coalition.
So I have so many points to say. I want to jump in. I just got so excited from everything that you just said. Number one, I just want to say, and we talk about it a lot, me and Natalie, like sometimes you're at capacity, right? So you have to bring in people that, may not be able to do what you do. And that's okay. So I love that you're like, I personally wouldn't like be a lawyer, at least right now. But I would love to like bring lawyers into FutureSwell. Earth Justice is amazing. We have a friend that works there too. And
awesome.
So it is a wonderful, 100% donate if you can to Earth Justice. And then number three, I love that there is work being done to give rights to oceans and waterways. When I was in high school, like I think at least where I'm from, you would have to do like this big high school project. And I did mine about animal rights. And my whole thing was like, they need rights too. They literally cannot speak for themselves. So we have to speak for them to get them the rights that they deserve. And so oceans fall 100% within that, just because it's just so it's literally water. It's so fluid. It's like hard to understand and like wrap your mind around that a body of water should have rights. You know what I mean? It's not a human. It's not an animal. Because even animals, it's like easier to understand. But like something like oceans or a forest or whatever, like they are living things that need rights as well. And then did you see that they, I can't remember who it was. I'll have to jump back on to this episode to fact check it, but they like deemed the ocean a sentient being.
Oh, maybe I saw that. They did it in Aotearoa, New Zealand, led by Maori people, like providing rights to whales. And I'm like, okay, we can just copy paste this template and like learn how this is done. But you're so right. And also, who's going to defend those animals? It's going to be Earth Justice. So
yeah. Okay, we're going to take a bird's eye view in this episode. We don't necessarily exactly talk about this, but I think it's a huge thing to bring up, especially in conservation and especially in ocean conservation. It is the largest protected area, land and sea, and it just so happens to be in the ocean. I say that, but I also want to say that less than 3% of oceans are protected. So even though this is the largest area in the world that's protected and it happens to be in the ocean, we still have a long way to go when it comes to ocean conservation and protecting vast parts of the ocean. So this is a mouthful, and forgive me, our Hawaiians that might be listening if I say it wrong, but we have been practicing. It's the Papahanaumakua'akea Marine National Monument, and it is, like I said, the largest area of protected land, but it is in the sea, and we have seen insane benefits with this, with bird populations, and we also see it with whales. So we have seen amazing positive impacts when we dedicate giant areas of land to just be undisturbed. And you can also see that in the Ocean documentary with David Attenborough. They do a wonderful segment about this exact marine national monument, Papahanaumakua'akea. And I'm just saying it again to challenge. So Natalie, tell us a little bit more about this marine national monument.
Yeah, so the sanctuary encompasses over 500,000 miles of Pacific Ocean waters in Hawaii, and this provides significant protection to natural, cultural, and historical resources while bringing opportunities for things like research, for documentaries, like in the Ocean documentary, for community engagement, and really outreach activities. And this marine national monument was actually designated by George W. Bush under the Antiquities Act in 2006. And so based on the sanctuary designation process that was already underway, in 2016, President Obama created the monument expansion area, and this also called for initiating the process to designate the National Marine Sanctuary. So in 2020, the Senate Committee on Appropriations directed the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, to initiate the sanctuary designation process. And so now that we see existing regulations in place for the national monument in 2006 serve as really a benchmark for the designation of it being a national marine sanctuary.
And tell us more about the mole bird that lives there.
Hawaiian wildlife really depends on this marine sanctuary in so many ways, and the mole bird is one of those species that does. And it's Hawaii's most significant seabird, the mole, or the Laysan albatross. And so to witness the mole in flight is to really understand this pure grace of this bird and how its essence really thrives on the swell of the ocean. So with wings spanning 6 feet, they can glide for hours using wave energy without a single wing beat. So they're like sailing hundreds of miles a day on invisible columns of energy and air that rise from the ocean's surface. And so that's how they really use that swell and wave and wind energy to help them glide and take flight.
That's so cool. I love that.
I know, right? You can just imagine this bird moving in sync with the essence of the waves, and I would love to see that in action. Yeah, and so a little bit more about the mole bird. The bill is pink with gray, and they have a hooked tip, and their legs and feet are very light pink. So like all albatross, mole are accomplished flyers due to their dynamic soaring that can cover great distances. They mainly feed at night and oftentimes far from a breeding colony, and sometimes feed with animals belonging to their same species, but rarely with other species. So in Hawaii, their diet consists primarily of squid and deep water crustaceans, fish, and flying fish eggs. Like most seabirds, the mole does nest in colonies, and they have long-term pair bonds with high site fidelity, meaning that they return time and time again, only to lay 1 egg per season, and with both parents participating in all aspects of raising the young. So pairs engage in this long, noisy, ritualized courtship dances that then lead to the breeding process. And so that courtship display is also a stunning act, and we should definitely drop that in this show somewhere.
Thank you for taking this Mole bird's eye view with us in the Papahānaumokuā Akea Marine National Monument.
Love that. And make sure you watch David Attenborough's new ocean documentary to get a really better understanding of how beautiful this sanctuary is. Do you like Center for Biological Diversity?
Yes, okay. I have. When I was just a little wee undergrad in Arizona, we partnered up with them. They're super cool. They do law stuff, right?
Yeah, that's why I would love to work for them if I wasn't working for myself. They just do, I feel like, similar to what FutureSwell does, just working on campaigns and a ton of advocacy work. And then they also have like biologists on the ground. It's like a multifaceted organization, obviously, but just the law component. Like they are also suing the government in many ways. You know, the Sierra Club does the same thing. But yeah, CNDDBs, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I think that's something people listening who are building, I come from like a really grassroots background in nonprofits, but there are these large nonprofits where you're doing like huge campaigns, making huge impact, definitely being paid what you're worth. And just there are all these options that I think I wish I'd known more about the big NGOs when I was younger, because it really can be like a lifelong career. Yeah,
that's a good way of putting it. Mm-hmm. And the nonprofit space it feels good to be in it because it's mission driven. And, you know, all three of us on the show right now are obviously very mission driven women. And so sometimes I feel like that would be like a good alternative if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now. I didn't do much in the nonprofit space because I went straight into field research and like GIS stuff. But anyways, that's awesome.
We'll talk about that on my podcast.
Yes. Yes. We have so much more to talk about. So fun. So I guess my next question for you is, how do you, and this goes back to the deep sea mining campaign, how does preventing deep sea mining from happening help the ocean climate crisis? Like if ocean becomes open to deep sea mining, what does that mean for the climate crisis? Because I think we need to talk about climate change a little bit here before we, wrap up. But
that's a great question. And also I am fully aware of like, sometimes I'm like in the weeds on these issues, so I don't always provide the best background, but we work, I personally like really want to work on efficient approaches. Like I want to work on the biggest scale impact for the amount of work we're going to go into. And so deep sea mining is essentially, my friend Mark has likened it to, it's like stopping. We have an opportunity to like stop oil drilling before it started. Like we have an opportunity to stop an entire industry before it ever starts. And the reason that's so important for climate is because all of the deep sea sediment that's on the seafloor has so much carbon in it, so much carbon dioxide, so much, if it were released, would release emissions that would just accelerate global heating. And that's why it's a climate issue. It's also a justice issue because for many Indigenous people of Oceania, it's where their creators or the source of all life have come from. And then it's also an ecological issue because of all of the biodiversity that we have yet to understand down there. And also we just don't know enough about this ecosystem to be messing with it in this type of intervention. Dr. Diva Amon is a deep sea researcher, and she's like the voice, I would say, of the scientific side of this issue. And the way that she describes how we just there could be so many consequences that we don't know. And we already do know that disrupting the sediment is going to release all of the carbon and methane into the ocean and then into the atmosphere, which would then accelerate ocean acidification that threatens our coral reefs, or it would accelerate heating, which is already not great. So that's kind of the ocean climate connection on that issue.
I feel like, and the list goes on, the impacts of sound with marine wildlife. I think it's a laundry list of issues. But one thing I wanted to touch on from your list that you just provided is the Indigenous connection with ocean. We talked to multiple Indigenous people for our season 2. And I feel like a lot of times people think about Indigenous practices on land, but can you speak to just some things that you've learned, working with these groups in Hawaii, with their connection to the ocean specifically, and like that indigenous knowledge to the ocean?
Yeah. So I can only really speak from my exposure in Hawaii, which is different, but like the people of the Pacific, so that includes like Polynesia, Melanesia, Micronesia, all these areas hold like deep reverence for the ocean. But in Hawaii specifically, and Uncle Sol is an incredible voice from Hawaii about deep sea mining. He shares such a beautiful story that can easily be found online about why deep sea mining is so threatening to their culture. But essentially, you know, the Kumulipo is the creation chant in Hawaiian culture, and it calls out immediately that all life began in the darkness in the deep sea. And this means, and then actually the first creature was the coral polyp, which is really beautiful. And it makes doing coral work here so much more special. But they're also voyaging people. So in the Pacific, there's so much historically of voyaging between islands, voyaging to different cultures, interchanging and trade. And that voyaging culture is rooted in, they use wayfinding. So like obviously no GPS, it's where you use, you're embedded in nature. It's so beautiful and also so impressive when you truly think about it, using stars, wind, birds, whales to guide you. And so much of the voyaging knowledge can be tied back to like biodiversity patterns in the ocean. So when you like disrupt a continental shelf where dolphins aggregate on the way from Fiji to Hawaii, it's impacting their voyaging culture. That's just a few things that come to mind, but it's so deep. And I just, I feel only really exposed to the Pacific side of that, but I can imagine that that's how it is globally.
Yeah. I'm so happy that you shared that. I know that you can't speak to it specifically, but I'm glad that you are able to speak to your exposure to it and shed light to some of the issues that would be, like, in my opinion, just disrespectful if we were to get with deep sea mining.
And, you know, part of campaigning and being an effective campaigner is like picking the messaging that works for that time. And so focusing on this was so important when climate justice and ocean justice was being centered by the previous administration. But now you're going to see us all like, we're going to be talking about the economic issues and how it's not feasible. And that doesn't make these other parts not important. It's just that we're now trying as organizers to be as effective as possible for the audiences. But this is still like such an Uncle Sol's still sharing this message. He was just at the UN Ocean Conference sharing this message, organizing globally with other like activators around it. So it's definitely still like the foundation of the movement.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. I have to ask, as the anime representative here, what do you think about Moana and the storytelling around voyaging and Hawaii as a whole?
Yeah. I remember the first Moana, they like remixed all of this. I have this memory of like going to bars. I was young when it came out and going to bars and like they were remixing the Moana soundtrack and it was like what you were dancing to in the club. And so I think it was like, it like shook the fabric of Hawaii to this is being spotlighted as a Disney movie, or I don't know if it's Pixar or whatever, but as a Disney movie. And like, it was incredible. And I watched the second one and I loved it too. I think that it's amazing to have cultures of the ocean represented to kids. Maybe they don't get every detail right, but it's about like building that awareness and an initial connection. And I think it did a really good job of that. And also Ali'i Carvalho, the voice of Moana, is like a badass ocean person. Like she's an ambassador for us at Kuleana. She was at UNOC talking to Sylvia Earle. She's like cares deeply about making impact with her like celebrity status she's gained from Moana. And she's like, she's so committed. And I'm like, she's one to watch for sure. And that makes me love it even more.
Yeah, I love that. I work with some people that worked on Moana, and it was definitely something that they just when they talk about it, there's just the absolute utmost respect for the culture, and they feel so grateful to have worked on that project. So I definitely think there's a lot of love there.
That's such a special experience for them.
Carissa, what would you say is one thing our listeners can do to support ocean health this week? There's so many things, I know.
But not this week. I think
or just
in general, since we don't know.
Okay, in general? Okay. Okay.
Am I putting you on the spot?
No. Okay, I am for this week, I'll say an immediate thing and then in general. So immediately, I would just focus on whatever you know about the ocean, just commit to going one step further on an issue that interests you. So like, I feel like a lot of people know like, oh, plastic pollution's an issue. Well, why don't you choose to watch a documentary about the ocean? Oceans by David Attenborough was really good. Or watch something like an ocean documentary on one of the streaming platforms that you have that like allows you to learn a little bit more about that issue, because I truly think that our limitation with the ability to act on the ocean is rooted in people not knowing the details around the issue and then the solutions that accompany them. And then for the long-term ocean health, I think that we all just need to revisit our relationship with the ocean. You might not live by a coast, but you are all connected to it. And that relationship is probably the foundation of any like care or stewardship work that you do the rest of your life. So make sure you're taking care of that. And for me, that looks like beach walks after work. But for you, it might look totally different. So think about what it is and go bring your friends or family and do it with them.
Yeah. I love that.
Yay. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Thank you for being here. I know.
I just want to say we have a past guest named Randy Thomas, who is on a new show on Netflix that's coming out the week that we're recording this. By the time we post this, it will have already been out. It's called All the Sharks.
Whoa.
And so we're really excited for him. And that can be something that maybe you watch.
Way to plug it. Look, we already gave you the option.
Yeah. Go, Randy, go. We're rooting for you.
Before we leave here, I am wondering, as a young woman in this space, which is like such an annoying thing to say, like bringing the woman aspect into it, but like, what can you tell other young women that may have no idea where to start, that want to make this like their full-time gig?
Yeah. Pretty much everything I do is for the girls. So no weird to say as a woman in the space, because it's truly a totally different experience in the space as a woman. The only thing I'll say is that go find other women that you will look up to help guide you, or that are peer mentors that are on the same track as you. Because when you have issues, when you have challenges, you need to have people to go to ask those questions. And just know that like, God, someone told me like the only difference between you accomplishing something and not accomplishing it is whether you give up. And so just like stay persistent and determined and get really clear with yourself on what you want. And then just always be choosing steps towards that, because then it's inevitable. So, you can we need more people building their full-time careers around this, and it's more than possible. But if you don't have a blueprint, go find a friend to figure it out with you, or find someone who's been there before and ask them questions. I wish I got a mentor earlier. That's another piece of advice. Find a mentor. They don't have to be significantly older. They don't have to be doing exactly what you do, but just find someone who believes in you and is willing to help you out.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice.
I think it's so important to be recognized by a mentor for like the young star in you, or like the young pupil as a student, and they can see your potential, and being recognized for that potential at like a young age and hearing their stories and their success can really be inspirational. And I hope that people are inspired by our conversation. And I know so many young women look up to you. I certainly do. I think it's great what you're doing with FutureSwell. I love it. I want Planet People to become like a bigger media agency where we can do more than just the podcast, and just create like an advocacy platform where we can collaborate with groups like FutureSwell and all those other good orgs out there, Oxygen Project. Yeah, it's on the horizon. All of it's happening. This is only getting bigger, this part of conservation. So yeah, that's true. If people listening are creative or find themselves more drawn to the storytelling piece of it, it's the biggest opening in this field, I think. So like nurture it, I like that. Yeah.
Well, you also have a podcast, which we will be on, which we're excited for, Sustainability and the Sea. So if you are listening, please go also give that a listen. And Carissa, where else can our audience find you?
You can find me everywhere. My username is Carissa and Climate. And my last name is Cabrera for LinkedIn, if you want to be homies over there. And yeah, shoot me a DM if you have questions. It'll take me 3 months to reply, but I will get there eventually.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Carissa. And for this segment of Anxiety into Action, we encourage you all to check out our show notes and follow and donate to FutureSwell. So you can do that by going to their website and supporting Carissa's platform by sharing their podcast, Sustainability in the Sea, and donating to support some of their current conservation campaigns, like the deep sea mining effort and the Hawaiʻi green fee tax. You can learn more about that effort as well. So always take action by checking out the show notes and seeing the resources we have for you guys to really use at your disposal.
And Carissa does a wonderful job on FutureSwell, giving so many different resources to everyone that, like we said, is busy in their everyday. They don't have time to necessarily dedicate so much to conservation. And so she provides scripts for you to make comments specifically about the deep sea mining that we talk about, and other different coalitions that she might be involved in, different movements, different policies that she's trying to get passed. So yeah, keep her website in your back pocket as a really wonderful resource for ocean conservation. Another thing that you can do is, if you're a teacher, look into the ocean curriculum that she put together, and you can use that in your classroom. Or if you know a teacher, pass that along to them. I'm sure that there's always something new and exciting that might get you jazzed for your classroom if you're a teacher.
That's a great point. She has her education platform on FutureSwell called Ocean Connections, which was really the starting point, I think, of FutureSwell for her, as we kind of discussed in this conversation. And those resources are still readily available for anyone who wants to learn about ocean conservation online. And especially during the pandemic, that was such a valuable resource for a lot of teachers. And that's still there for you if you need it.
Yeah. And then another thing that you can do is practice ecotourism. When you are traveling, make sure to support the locals. And, you don't need to go to a Starbucks. You go to Starbucks all the time, right?
And as a way to practice ecotourism, if you are ever visiting Hawaii or other islands that have really rich coral reef diversity, is to make sure that when you're snorkeling or going in the water, that you're not trampling the reef or poaching any shells, sponges, reefs, fish, whatever it might be. Leave everything exactly as you found it. And I'm saying this because one of my girlfriends, Ellie, there was actually talking about how the reefs could be healthier in Hawaii, but it's when people step on them that it really causes damage and it kills the reef. So that's one action step you can take, a preventative action, as a way to practice ecotourism, is support local communities, yes, but support your reefs.
And I think something to that, I want to break down what you mean by poaching, because that's such a big term that people don't realize that they are actually doing. So if you're just taking some shells that you want to have like at your home in your shelf, like that's considered poaching. So just leave those where they are, leave your wild spaces wild. There's different ways that you can take home a souvenir. It doesn't need to be, taking fresh shells that are supposed to be there for the ecosystem. Shells are there that they eventually become sand. So just leave them on the beach. I think that's poaching is just such a big word. You don't realize that you're actually a part of it,
Well, I think poaching can encompass so many different things, like the wildlife crisis, right? The illegal pet trade. And that's a conversation for another episode we have, but it's a worthwhile topic to bring up, especially in this anxiety into action piece, where you can really take preventative action, right? By just being a better steward and leaving wild places wild, like you said.
And then also to your point with the coral reefs, make sure that you are looking at your sunscreen. Just in general for your health, because there's so much in sunscreen that is really not good for you. But please, please, please make sure that you're getting reef-friendly sunscreen. I think it's like a soft requirement for Hawaii. I don't know how they can enforce something like that, but I do know that Hawaii is very big on making sure that you wear reef-friendly sunscreen, because a lot of the sunscreens out there actually, it's poisonous to coral reefs. So
very detrimental to reef health.
Probably to you as well. So just be very cognizant of what kind of sunscreen that you're buying. Vote with your dollar. Like, that's a huge thing that we say in many different episodes of the season, and it does go a long way.
Take your health seriously, and that will reflect in how you treat the ocean. You don't want to put products on your skin that are damaging to you. So you don't want to also put those products in the ocean when you go in the water.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Planet People. We are thrilled to have you as part of our community of wildlifers who care about protecting the planet for future generations to enjoy.
We hope that by listening, you feel inspired to connect with nature and become a steward of the planet by getting involved and taking action with your local community conservation organizations. Until next time, stay positive, Planet People.
This episode was produced by Natalie Jean Sybil, Coral Carson, and Hugh Carr. Directed and edited by Coral Carson. Theme song by Hugh Carr under the artist name Flama. Thank you, team.